The fighter watched what was happening and saw all this for the first time. The warrior stood in a stance and their boss was losing to someone despite the enhancements. The leader remembered the counterattack, thinking that despite all the enhancements, he would not be able to defeat him with brute force in this state. But the enhancements did not only apply to physical strength. He stood in a stance and he understood that magic was also strong. A magic circle formed under his feet, and he thought that he would definitely be able to defeat him with magic and put all his strength into one precise strike. He struck and a notification of divine punishment came out. The bearded man looked forward and understood that this was the most powerful spell that he knew, and it took a lot of mana. Ikoma dodged, thinking that he could use gravity reduction to dodge the blow, but he did not want to spend even more strength on this fight than necessary. He looked to the side, and something interested him. He parried the blow using gravity reduction. Magic power formed behind the guy. Shiraki looked forward, thinking that he used the monster's fang as a shield. There was a broken object on the floor, and Shiraki's magic was not so dangerous as to dodge it with gravity. He started to strike, saying that he was a coward and ordered him to come here. Ikoma was behind him, and he lost sight of him. He looked back. Ikoma was approaching his opponent about to strike. The guy touched the enemy's forehead, and a notification appeared that he had used double gravity. The leader waved him off, insulting the guy. He was very surprised and felt dizzy. He leaned on the sword and did not understand what he did to him. Ikoma looked forward and the human body was very sensitive to any changes in space. Shiraki felt the blows and screamed in pain. He was lying on the floor and did not understand why he was so strong. The blade touched the guy's jaw and Ikoma asked if he understood him and said that continuing the fight was a pointless undertaking. The enemy's gaze was busy and he thought that his comrades had put all sorts of enhancements on him. But even against the crowd, he was able to defeat him. Ikoma was stretching his hand with a sword towards him. The bearded man looked at the winner and did not understand anything. Ikoma looked away and he thought that they all had rank B, but the guy was still on a completely different level. The main one got up thinking that he could not admit defeat. He was furious and had to be a leader and show the company what he was worth. Ikoma was calm and said that his time had come to an end. Discontent was visible on the opponent's face and he asked again. He rushed to attack. Ikoma raised his sword. The hilt hit the threat's head. He froze and thought that he really lost. Ikoma stood next to the beaten guy. The fighter looked away saying that the basic enhancement magic lasts for about 500 seconds, so his defeat was inevitable. Shiraki froze and a bruise was visible on his forehead. The bearded man watched what was happening and did not understand how he could even calculate this. And the guy said that from now on he would be the leader and ordered everyone to exit the dungeon the same way and take a rest. Satsuki stopped the hand of her ward who agreed with that. She looked at the offended one and said that because of the selfish desires of the former leader, Ikoma lost too much mana. She smiled saying that they would no longer fight monsters and give them all the mana. The guy in glasses was angry and Ikoma said that in fact this was not part of his plans. The bearded man held Shiraki and Satsuki took the mana from the defeated one. She touched Ikoma who said that this duel was too long and noted that they should immediately follow Mio's trail. Shiraki looked in their direction and asked them to stop. He looked ahead and said that with the power of that they would be able to take the driving force to a new level, to which he said that he had already responded to the proposal. He turned away and said that he did not become an adventurer for money and fame and thought that he had not met corporate adventurers in the previous timeline either. He remembered standing next to the group and saying that he did not need people but tools, and a group without trust between members is doomed to disintegrate. Ikoma left saying that with such an approach he would never be able to achieve his dream. Shiraki froze and hung his head down. The partners left for the dungeon and his partner said that he was very kind to them because he even told them how to get home and exit the dungeon faster. She hung her head, saying that after everything they had done, they did not deserve such treatment. To which he replied that even though they were bad people, he wanted them to reach the exit in one piece. He looked away. In front of them was an air path to the floating islands. They looked ahead and the guy said that they should go back because they were already at their limit. Ikoma looked back and said no because they had just entered and he still had mana and he could handle the boss himself. He froze, thinking that in his youth he was also full of ambition and did not think that the opinion of each member of the group was important. The dark-haired man looked at him and was silently meaningful. Ikoma lowered his head down, saying that before he only thought about the result, and maybe that's why their paths with their former comrades quickly diverged. Satsuki turned and called out to the guy. She smiled and said that it was all in the past because he had changed, to which he hesitantly agreed with her. He went forward, thinking that at the first stage, the dungeon boss was just starting to evolve, so Mio should not have suffered much. He walked forward, imagining her drowning, and thought that he should hurry and stop this fight before it was too late. The girl stood in front of a huge insect. She looked ahead and was surprised by the boss's strength. There was a sharp movement behind her. The bug was approaching her. There were items on the floor. Ikoma picked up a stone and thought it was a magic shard. He looked at the shards and they dropped for monsters after killing. And apparently Mio had been here recently. Satsuki looked at the item and asked why she hadn't collected them. The stones were shining and these shards contained the monster's mana and were very valuable and in the future should become an environmentally friendly source of energy. The car stood against the background of wind power plants, and even now these shards can be sold in the guild for a generous reward. Although knowing Mio, she never chased profits, so she did not pick them up. Satsuki looked at the guy and said that he mentioned her fallen comrade. He turned around and said that he had heard the story from other adventurers and didn't think it was true. The girl was lying next to a corpse, and in her first year as an adventurer, Mio had lost a close friend while clearing a dungeon. The girl looked touched and asked what was the reason the lady preferred to work alone, to which he said that it was most likely. He remembered how she had put the blades to the guy's head and said that judging by her reaction, she still blamed herself for what happened. Ikoma put his hand on his jaw while she asked him why he was collecting this information about her, to which he replied that he wanted to get closer to her and tried to learn about her from others. The girl's face changed and suggested that he was stalking, to which he denied it, thinking that she had saved his life. Of course, he wanted to learn as much about her as possible. Satsuki lowered her head and did not believe that he was capable of such a thing. He looked away. The partner was scared and assumed that he had fallen in love with Mio, and he thought that his behavior had created a lot of misunderstandings. The cave went on and Ikoma assumed that she had entered the deepest part of the dungeon. The guy looked ahead and said that they needed to hurry. The beetle looked ahead and made scary sounds. Arisa looked ahead and thought that the level of the one was much higher than she expected, and a notification about her level came out. The boss rushed to attack and began to make sounds. Mio dodged the blow. She looked back and thought that he had incredible strength with speed as expected from a level 80 boss. The monster stood up while she thought that there were no other monsters nearby, which meant that he would soon begin to evolve and she would not be able to cope with him, and she needed to get out of here and report the danger. The guys were smiling and standing in a group and thought that if she ran away, the creature would run after her, and she would endanger the other members of the raid. She said, "That's why she goes alone into the dungeon." She looked at the enemy, thinking that she couldn't run away, so she would have to fight. But in that case, she was doomed to die, and her class only reveals its full power on the verge of death, and in that case, she could even the odds. There was determination in her eyes, and she understood that this was the only way she could kill him. There was a man standing behind her asking if they would meet soon. She froze. The girl's eyes were closed. Mio stood in a stance and thought that she should focus on the battle. There were magic balls behind the bug. He rushed to attack and began to use poisonous larvae. Mio looked away thinking that this was all that he could throw 4 poisonous larvae at her. She stepped on the surface and thought that he was defenseless. The lady swung and was about to strike. Her gaze froze and she was anticipating her turn to attack. A powerful explosion occurred which illuminated the cave. She looked ahead and assumed that this boss specialized only in attack and did not understand how he was able to dodge. She turned and noticed the enemy. He was frowning in focus while she thought that this creature was playing with her. Mio gritted her teeth and thought that he was stalling for time to evolve and ordered him to come here. Her expression was aggressive, and she shouted at him that he was a coward. The lady was preparing to attack. A powerful slash was approaching the insect's face. The girl approached him and thought that she would show him all her power. Mio was focused and had the Reaper class. The boss stood in a stance. He crossed his limbs in front of him. There was an explosion and particles flew in different directions. She pressed him with a sword and said that she could not be killed so easily. The beetle stood in the cave and thought that she had spent too much health and still could not defeat him. The monster dealt a powerful blow. Mio jumped to the side. She looked away thinking that with such an amount of health she could hit him 2 more times. The boss rushed towards the enemy. She froze and did not notice that he had become stronger. She blocked the blow. Blood gushed from her mouth, and she screamed in pain. The monster looked in her direction. He broke through the defense again and hit. There was an explosion. The girl was sitting on the floor and a sword lay next to her. The walls of the dungeon were cracked. The girl sat on the floor and her body was pierced by terrible pain, and she could not move and felt herself losing consciousness. She looked to the side and did not understand why this creature had not finished her off yet. The insect was approaching her, making terrible sounds. Mio sat motionless, resigned to death. She looked to the side. She imagined the girl running among the rubble. It was raining in the city. The guys were standing on the roof. Mio looked ahead. She froze and closed her mouth. The dark-haired one pointed his finger at her and asked what she was doing here and said that there could still be monsters here and she needed to quickly return to the shelter. She looked ahead and begged to let her into her house. The fighter looked at her wearily. She passed by him and he called out to her. He looked back and ordered her to stop. Mio froze after being ordered not to look. She stood in a room with corpses and recognized her parents in them. The lady bared her teeth thinking that these freaks always take away the most precious things from her. She transformed and energy swirled around her. The beetle rushed towards her. He looked back and she asked about the fact that since she was lying on the ground, he thought that she was easy to kill. She looked at him and a notification about the Reaper's last wish appeared and this skill could work as long as she had mana. She stood up saying that he was naive and their battle was not over yet, and she hated all these monsters with all her soul. The boss rushed forward while she thought that even if he could restore health thanks to racial skills, he would not be able to restore severed limbs. She rushed to the attack and thought that she would tear off all 4 of his paws. They clashed with weapons. The monster counter-attacked and was about to strike. The girl blocked the attack and slowed down with her legs, thinking that the Reaper's last wish was using up mana very quickly and she couldn't stop. She looked ahead and was going to put all her strength into the blow. He stood in front of the girl and used the poisonous larve skill. Mio tried to dodge and thought that this time it felt like they had become more powerful and stronger. She looked away and behind her the projectile began to turn. There was an explosion and she understood that she wouldn't have time to dodge. She ran to the attack and was going to fight until her last breath. The lady hit the monster on the limb. Her attention fell on the blade and she thought that she would definitely be able to break it. She frowned and screamed. Part of the insect cracked, and she thought that she had succeeded. The beetle brushed it off, and it flew to the side. The girl fell to the ground. Mio looked to the side and understood that her mana had finally run out. The boss looked at her, and was going to finish her off. Mio closed her eyes and assumed that this meant she would die like this. The mistress looked at the girl who asked her to wait, and she asked her why she was always following her. The girl looked ahead and offered to rest. She twirled her leg and said that she was already tired of walking. The girl walked forward saying that the monsters did not care whether she was tired or not. They had to kill everyone as soon as possible, and said that since she could not stand it, next time she would go alone. Mio walked forward, ignoring the requests. She looked back and asked what she needed. Her partner's face was covered in blood and she said that she died because of her, and asked why she was still alive. The mistress froze in horror. The victim took her head and asked when they would meet. She covered her eyes with her hand and asked not to worry, saying that they would meet soon. The monster rushed towards her to finish her off. Strong threads appeared. The insect froze in the air and was bound by shadow feeds. Satsuki looked ahead and asked her partner to hurry up. Ikoma stood next to her and said that her partner had done a great job. Mio looked away. Ikoma was calm. The guy stretched his hand to the side and thought about the grant. Ikoma holds his partner in his arms. Together with Satsuki, they take cover behind a rock. He turns around and realizes that they managed to save Mio after all, and they arrive just in time. Satsuki worries that she is still in a bad way as she has almost no health left, and her body is weakened. Mio lies unconscious. Suki understands that if they do not take her to a doctor, she will die. The picture shows a bright sky. The monster roars furiously. Ikoma looks out from behind the rock and says that they managed to hide, but they need to get out quickly, and it will not be easy because the boss of the dungeon itself is very strong. The monster stands on 2 legs. The boss is standing at the only exit from the cave, which Ikoma notices. The diagram shows a map of the cave. Ikoma understands that he is not only strong but also smart. Satsuki sits next to Mio, who asks why they came for her at all because even the 3 of them can't defeat him. Ikoma closes his eyes and says that's why he didn't want to fight the boss. The girl looks ahead painfully. Ikoma realizes that they miraculously managed to save her, but she can't fight them anymore. The picture shows Ikoma with levels. Ikoma says that the difference in their levels is too high, and also the feature of this boss is high defense and speed, and they can't defeat him in the current situation. Ikoma turns around and tells Satsuki to take Mio and run away, and he will distract the monster. The girl is indignant that this is madness. The white-haired girl hears this displeasedly. She tells him to keep his heroism to himself. Mio begins to rise and says that she was a loner and will die because when she chose this path, she was ready for such an ending to her story. Satsuki leans on her sword and asks him to let her keep her pride because she no longer wants anyone to die because of her weakness. Ikoma watches her and realizes that despite her severe wounds, her determination is unwavering. But the pain of the past does not allow her to accept anyone's help. He says, "Okay." She sighs, hearing that she can stay. Mio states that she will distract the boss. Ikoma calmly states that they will stay too. Mio is shocked to hear that they will defeat him together. Satsuki and her look forward. The girl does not understand what he is saying, that they cannot defeat him and Mio is badly injured and the 2 of them cannot defeat the level 80 boss. Ikoma turns around and advises her to use the mana transfer skill. This will help Mio hold out for a while. Suki is indignant that she can restore mana, but her partner is exhausted and has almost no health left, and it takes time to use this skill. Ikoma goes forward and calmly states that he will buy them time. Mio is shocked that this is a real suicide, and she knows what she is talking about because she fought against the boss and he is monstrously strong. Ikoma goes further. Ikoma realizes that he knows more about him than she can think and he has a plan. So, there is no need to worry. The monster uses the poisonous larva skill. Satsuki covers Mio with her body. She turns around and notices this loud howl. Ikoma looms over him and declares that he is completely at the disposal of the boss. Ikoma stands with a weapon in his hands. He confidently calls the opponent to attack. Satsuki touches the girl and activates mana transfer. Mio, with her head down, says that Ikoma is completely underestimating the boss. She seriously claims that he won't be able to handle it alone because he's literally walking to his death. A ferocious monster approaches the cliff where Ikoma is standing. A very bright flash of lightning occurs. Ikoma looks forward and thinks that the enemy is trying to corner him. The boss looks at him with a serious expression. Ikoma performs an attack using the reverse gravity skill. He runs through the air towards the monster. A bright flash from the blade illuminates everything around. Ikoma is standing on top of the boss. Mio is surprised to realize that he was able to strike the cursed queen. Satsuki watches the battle, thinking that she knew about Ikoma's strength, but he was able to catch the level 80 boss by surprise. Satsuki looks at him and thinks that he seems to see right through the queen. The monster attacks again. Ikoma, standing on top of the enemy, decides to attack. He jumps off her shell abruptly. The monster roars loudly. Ikoma stands in front of him and claims that he has been waiting for this meeting since that day. The guy holds Satsuki in his arms. He looks forward, realizing that he thought through options in his head on how he could finish her off. The boss roars ferociously. Ikoma jumps high, holding a blade in his hands. He pierces the monster's body. Its blood gushes around. Ikoma stands on top and teases the monster, asking if this is really all that a level 80 boss can do. Satsuki looks at Mio excitedly, and clarifies if Ikoma can defeat him. She replies that of course not. The girl acknowledges his strength but notes that due to the large difference in levels, his blows do not inflict enough damage on the queen. Suki is surprised to hear that he will sooner run out of mana than kill her. Ikoma stands with his back to them. Mio sadly realizes that Ikoma deliberately forced her to give up her mana so that she could fight him, and she wonders what he has in mind. She realizes that if she fights, she may not survive. After activating the skill, Ikoma stands in front of the boss, realizing that it is a wonderful feeling that he has waited so long to take revenge on him for the death of his comrade. Ikoma confidently points his blade at her and urges her to attack, offering to have fun together. The monster attacks using the poisonous larva skill. Mio looks at the fight in surprise, not understanding what is happening to the queen. She is excited to realize that she recognized him as a threat even though he is 30 levels lower than her. Ikoma runs to attack, shouting that the queen is only capable of such a thing. Mio is indignant and calls him an idiot, wondering why he does not retreat, because it is dangerous. Ikoma rushes forward. A bright red flash occurs behind him. He insults her with a displeased face, recalling the fight 10 years ago. Red energy entangles Ikoma. A ferocious monster roars loudly in front of the fighter. Ikoma suddenly jumps up. He deals a powerful blow with his blade. The monster screams loudly. Satsuki holds an irritated Mio who wonders if this adventure is really a B rank. The boss stands in front of her. She notices that although he managed to damage her, it is still not enough. A pop-up window says that the Cursed Queen has 457 out of 616 health and 305 out of 444 mana. The girl clenches her fist and realizes that the queen is too strong, and no matter how much he hits her, she will eventually be able to restore her health with the skill. Mio watches them with confidence, knowing that it will take one precise hit to finish her off and only she can do it. Deciding that she should go, Satsuki looks at her and objects that she can't since she hasn't fully restored her mana yet, adding that Satsuki is exhausted and if she joins the fight, it will be her last. She glances ahead, thinking that she has enough mana. The girl calmly uses the Grim Reaper's Last Wish skill, telling her friend not to worry. Satsuki is shocked to see this ability, saying that it is unique to the Grim Reaper class and allows you to use mana instead of health, using your power to the maximum until your mana runs out. Mio looks at Ikoma and realizes that Ikoma specifically asked her to restore her mana just so she could join the fight again. She takes off confident that she will not lose this time. The girl stands in front of Mio and states that when she relies on someone, they will definitely die, asking if she is sure that this is the right decision. She closes her eyes and apologizes to Momwon. Mio goes further, stating that she cannot ignore the determination of a person who puts their life on the line for others. The monster furiously flies forward. It is attacked using the Darkness Bullet and Crimson Blade skills. Mio stands next to Ikoma and asks if he knew the special features of the Grim Reaper class, and that is why he specifically asked his friend to transfer mana. Ikoma fights, agreeing with her and explaining that only with the Grim Reaper's Last Wish skill will they be able to defeat the queen. Mio is surprised and says that he already tried to defeat her with this skill and it was a waste of effort. The monster furiously attacks them using orbs. Ikoma looks ahead wearily and asks her to trust him that they can defeat the boss in 5 seconds. Mio asks in shock, "What 5 seconds are you talking about?" The girl quickly moves to attack. She sees the energy coming and is sure that she will not be able to dodge. Someone puts a hand on her shoulder. Ikoma is standing next to her. He helps her jump over the projectile using the gravity reduction skill. There is a very bright flash and explosion. Ikoma upside down hears it. Mio is surprised by the skill. Ikoma rushes down, exclaiming that her time has come. The monster looks at them in surprise. She attacks him with shadow feeders. Ikoma strikes with her blade. Mio remembers the previous battle. A huge explosion occurs after using Meteor Slash. She realizes with fear that in order to defeat the queen, Mio flies down realizing that she will have to use her full potential. She looks down and thinks about the Reaper class skill. Her health is 3 points out of 128. She raises her sword and realizes that in order to use the skill, she needs to gain high speed and also not let other monsters attack her. At the moment of impact, the monster and Ikoma look up. Ikoma loudly urges her to act faster. The girl is furiously burning with flames and uses the Bloody Revenge skill. A very large explosion occurs. The monster screams in horror. Mio is lying nearby. She realizes with a tired look that she cannot move because she used up all her strength. The monster is lying on the ground, Mio realizes that they most likely won. The boss's body part catches fire. The girl thinks that the cursed queen has a special attack. Ikoma strikes with a blade. It is said that for some time she pretends to be dead. And at that moment when the opponents let down their guard, the queen suddenly attacks. It is explained that at this moment she releases a poison sting which instantly kills the enemy. Ikoma watches in shock. Mio turns around and thinks that this is too fast. She looks at him in fear and realizes that she might die now. Ikoma suddenly appears right in front of her. He realizes with a serious face that he needs to redirect the trajectory of the sting. He holds the sword and understands that it is necessary to reduce gravity. The tip of Ikoma's blade meets with a poisonous sting. Ikoma effectively holds his sword. The monster roars in surprise. Memories appear in his head. He declares that with his skill, the boss took the life of a dear friend. Ikoma strikes with a powerful blow with his sword. He cuts straight at the enemy. Ikoma is standing on top of the cursed queen's body. He calmly shouts that he will put an end to this. A bright purple flash occurs and a scream from the grantee is heard. The pop-up windows state that 31317 experience points have been gained. The level has increased from 50 to 58, and 28 skill points have been gained. Satsuki smiles as he realizes that they have won and have truly defeated the boss. Ikoma calmly looks away and is glad that despite the difference in levels, either of them have died. Ikoma looks at the girl sitting on the ground and realizes that he was able to save Mio because her death greatly affected his life in the past, and it was because of her loss that he decided to become a top-ranked adventurer. The girl looks at her palm. She is surprised to realize that she survived. Mio looks forward in shock. Ikoma turns around and watches her. She does not understand if she was supposed to survive. The girl looks up. She sees a girl against the night sky being stabbed with a large knife. She asks Mio to run. Satsuki grabs her head and exclaims Momo's name. She falls to her knees. Satsuki stands next to her and asks how she feels. Satsuki calmly looks forward and says that she is fine. Just looking at Ikoma, she remembered. In the frame, Ikoma, the girl, continues to talk about one annoying girl. Mio sadly sits on the ground and says that she is sure she can't stand her because Satsuki literally ruined her life. Ikoma hears this with a serious face. The girl stands in front of Mio and asks when they can meet again. Mio looks at her excitedly. Ikoma watches her friend and understands that this is why Mio hates joining groups and is always risking herself. The frame shows images of the girl. He thinks that even in the past timeline, she acted exactly the same, despising herself and being an adventurer, looking for a way to leave life alone. He calmly realizes that she is talking about an annoying girl. Ikoma looks at Mio and states that if she despised him, she would not have risked her life to save the girl. The white-haired girl sits on her knees and hears that Ikoma means that he heard about it because her friend died as a result of clearing the dungeon. In the frame, an image of her death, Ikoma explains that he knows for sure that Mio survived because she protected her. Satsuki holds on to her friend and says that this is personal, and you should not be so harsh with feelings after saying that it is easy to engage in self-punishing nature. But you need to face the truth because she survived for a reason. Mio listens silently. The events unfold during the daytime. A little girl asks if she really wants to quit school. Mio sits at her desk and tells Mom with displeasure that the number of dungeons increases every year. She confidently looks ahead and says that because of these creatures, she has no one left and of course she gets benefits as a victim. But this money is not enough to enter university. The students go out into the corridor. Mio explains that this is why she decided to quit school and become an adventurer because she is not going to university anyway and a higher education is not necessary in the guild. Mio turns around and hears that the girl will also quit school in this case. Mom loudly declares that she will become an adventurer and will cover her back. She is very surprised. Against the background of the daytime sky, a question of what sounds. The girl stands next to the grown-up Mio and asks her to come back. Mio arrogantly declares that she thought so, that Mom is not cut out for this job. Her friend takes her hand, hearing that she will go alone next time. The girl asks her not to say that. Mom excitedly states that Mio is not alone in this world, asking her to let her be by her side. The girl looks at her coldly. Against the background of the night sky, a request is heard to endure a little longer because they are almost out, and it is better not to lose consciousness. Mio carries the injured Manhwa on her back. She lies on her friend's back and still asks if she is hurt. Mio is kneeling and in shock, thinking that there is no doubt that Manhwa hates her. Ikoma looks at her and states that she does not know what the dead are thinking and should never think about it, even for the sake of preserving her sanity. The picture shows a happy Manhwa. Ikoma explains that she risked her life to save her, and she continues to risk and hates herself looking for death, asking if Mio really thinks that her friend wanted this. Ikoma looks at her with a serious face and is sure that she thinks that no one will be upset if she dies in battle. Ikoma is sadly sure about Manhwa. In the picture, an image of her friend taking care of her. Ikoma says that she only wanted the best for her, and so much that she put her life on the line. Mio is shocked to hear this from Ikoma. She remembers how her dying friend still asked if Mio was okay. Satsuki is kneeling while Manhwa is next to her. She asks if she ate, and if everything is okay, clarifying if she has made friends. The friend says with a smile that they will not meet again soon, but there is no need to worry because she will always look after her. Manhwa hugs her and asks her not to die because it is too early for her. With tears in her eyes, she begs her to live happily for both of them. Mio screams her friend's name in pain. Ikoma stands in front of the defeated monster. Ikoma stands behind Mio and states that she acted recklessly because of her guilt towards Manhwa. He explains to her that her friend always cared for her, putting her life above her own, and if she died, all her efforts would be in vain. He kneels down and asks her to listen to his request. He looks at the girl and offers to be her friend from now on. Mio is surprised to hear this. She quietly asks for time to think about it. Ikoma happily allows her. On a pink background are the words, "For a start, not so bad." Ikoma carries Mio on his back. Satsuki is walking next to them. The girl tells Ikoma that due to her low health, she cannot move at all. He replies that everything is fine and there is no need to worry about it. Satsuki looks ahead with displeasure. In her eyes, they look like a couple in love. Satsuki stands in front of them and says that she is very happy for them. Ikoma asks what she means. He goes forward and thinks that the higher the rank, the more dangerous the dungeon. The picture shows a monster. It says that starting from rank A it will be hard to advance without a support class. Arisa smiles in the frame. It is explained that these monsters are not the most terrible opponents for him. The picture shows a warrior with a sword. Ikoma says that it is worth finding a person who can restore health at a critical moment, or get a rare item that will restore health when used. Ikoma goes further, carrying Mio on himself, and realizes that this will already be his next goal. A friend tells him that she has been working alone for a long time and for the first time she was able to rely on someone. She hugs and realizes that it turned out to be more pleasant than she thought. She thanks Ikoma with a smile. He remembers the moment of the murder in his past life and realizes that he seems to have succeeded in changing the future this time. The present version looks at the past. The older Ikoma looks up. The younger version looks at him with a smile. They touch palms. The events unfold in the city the next day. Ikoma is sitting at the table across from Satsuki. The girl asks if Mio has written to him. Ikoma starts to talk about it with excitement. He opens the messages on his phone. Satsuki looks. The messages show that Ikoma has written and called her several times, but there was no response. Satsuki realizes with a smile that she is ignoring him while the guy begs her not to say anything. He looks down sadly and states that he knew about her stubbornness, but he hoped that he could get closer. The friend objects that Mio is probably very tired and that is why she does not answer. In the picture, Satsuki is sitting opposite a cold coffee. Satsuki says that she needs to be given time and she will contact him soon. The girl drinks it with pleasure. She looks forward in surprise. Ikoma sitting at the table says that she is probably right. The girl is sitting with her back to her. Ikoma thinks that Mio, although strong, is stubborn and proud. He remembers the moments of the battle and realizes that despite her low level, she was able to challenge the cursed queen and survive. And if he were in her place, he would die from the first blow and he wanted to protect her from reckless actions. Mio walks down the corridor to the elevator. She goes further. Ikoma wants her to trust him. Ikoma looks at her friend who is not surprised that they are all sitting here. The girl watches them. Ikoma is shocked by her arrival. Satsuki runs up and asks how her wounds are. She replies that she is used to getting them, so she knows how to take care of herself and there is no need to worry about it. Ikoma looks at her and asks what she is doing here. Mio says excitedly that she has never been good at communicating via text. The girl puts her hand to her chest and says that she came here because she hopes to meet them because such things should be discussed in person. Then she says that she wants to join their group. Satsuki happily exclaims her name. Ikoma agrees with a smile. A statement is heard against the background of the city that they are glad that she decided to join them. The villains have gathered in a room and are discussing clearing the dungeon, killing the adventurer. The guy in the hood asks why he should be the one to do this, asking if there really was no one else. The girl with an eye patch replies that she hid him from government agents, so he should at least do his job sometimes. There is an ashtray with a cigarette on the table. The image of a bald guy is in the frame. It is said that their client is a big man in the government structure, and he made it clear that he will not tolerate failures anymore. The guy asks with a grin why they decided to give him this task, clarifying what is so difficult about it. He crosses his fingers and states that killing some bank adventurer sounds like a bore. He asks with displeasure why he should clean up after everyone since they are the ones who killed him and let them sort it out while the other guy is indignant. The bald guy hears the question of whether he is really wrong since they are the ones who let him get away and failed the task. In the frame, the villain stands with a knife. He explains that unlike them, he has received better military training. He stands among other fighters and states that he fought on the side of Ikoma of this world. The guy with a grin claims that he was the strongest adventurer, but the righteous make him sick. Arisu sadly thinks about how this pisses her off while he states that these adventurers are just being used by the government as cannon fodder in a fight against the monsters from the dungeon, and they are only too happy to go to their deaths for the sake of their heroism. The guy in the hood sitting on a chair says that this is why such stupid heroes especially piss him off. He turns around and says that since he and Arisa screwed up, it is better for them to stand aside and not interfere. He stabs a knife into a photo in Ikoma's personal file and says that first he needs to test what Ikoma is capable of. In the frame is his photo. The villain declares that he will then finish him off. The events take place in the branch of the Adventurers Guild, the licensing department. Someone congratulates Satsuki. The girl with a smile says that from this day onwards she has been assigned rank B. Surprised, Satsuki asked again if her rank had really increased. The diagram shows a pyramid of ranks explaining that if you look at the percentage of adventurers, you can see that there are only 1% of B rank adventurers in the country. She is happy to be one of them. Ikoma looks at his friend and congratulates her, saying that it is all thanks to her hard work. The girl stands next to her friends and thinks that compared to Ikoma and Mio, she is not that strong and useful. Satsuki raises her fist and firmly realizes that she needs to put in more effort, and she will not lose to Mio. The friend stands next to Ikoma and says that in fact this is a natural outcome. The picture shows Satsuki and Olga explaining that her level is higher than that of a regular B-rank adventurer. Mio calmly states that it is only thanks to her services to the district that she was promoted and that she should not be proud of it. The inscription says that rank promotions only occur in the branch where you are listed. Satsuki sadly says that she is right and that she should try harder. While noticing that her friend is very strict with her, Ikoma looks at her and says that Mio could have congratulated her because this is such a moment, and she tried very hard. She replies that she is just trying to be objective and no one except her comrades will tell her the truth. Mio coughs and says that they need to forget about it because she has something for them. She goes forward and calls everyone to follow her. In the background of the room, she is asked if this will be a gift for joining the group. Ikoma stands next to Satsuki and Mio opens the closet. Ikoma says that it is not necessary. She replies that it is, but she still wanted it differently. Ikoma watches her and wonders what she prepared. At this time, she says that it is gratitude for saving her. The girl stands in front of the closet and says that if it were not for them, she would have died that day. Mio stands next to a happy Satsuki after saying that, to be honest, she hasn't tried to get close to anyone since Mom 1 passed away. She sits in front of the door and states that it's just an ordinary gift, but she hopes they like it. Satsuki reflects on how she's been thinking badly of her all this time. She thanks her with a smile, realizing that she's actually a kind girl. Ikoma watches her, noticing that she used a large box to store it, guessing that it could be equipment or a weapon. The shot shows a teddy bear in a bag. She hands it over and states that it's a toy from a famous German brand, a limited edition released to celebrate the company's 5th anniversary. Satsuki thinks of the eternally serious girl, the lone wolf, but realizes that Mio is not what she imagined. Ikoma is shocked to think that she thought it was just an ordinary gift, wondering how much it costs. Satsuki hugs the gift and thanks her friend, wondering how she will drag it home. Ikoma takes the smartphone and is surprised by something. An urgent notification is written on the screen. A C-rank dungeon has opened. Please head to the nearest shelters until the situation improves. Ikoma stands next to his friend and realizes that there is another dungeon, and she in turn notes that their number has increased greatly lately. Mio looks down sadly and states that she knows this village, saying that it is not far from the capital, and they will quickly get there if they leave now. Ikoma says that if this dungeon is really, there should be level 40 bosses there, and they can easily deal with them. While realizing that the appearance of dungeon is not that rare, but this is the second urgent call in a week, he holds the smartphone and wonders why the special department does not begin an investigation into this abnormal activity. The guy looks at the screen in surprise. An urgent notification has arrived that the name of the dungeon sounds like a fairy garden. Satsuki turns around and asks if he knows about something. He replies that it is a level 40 dungeon, and as the name suggests, there are plant monsters living there. Noting that the biggest problem is the local boss, the Tree of Life, Geokarina. He is sure that he is not difficult, but they must not let him go beyond the dungeon. Ikoma looks away and realizes that if this happens, they will not be able to defeat him. There are girl stickers on the smartphone. Ikoma says that they will need help. He writes to the interlocutor that he has a request for him. The three heroes run forward. The character in the hood stands nearby. He looks at the smartphone. The mysterious hero exclaims that they really caused an artificial disaster. He looks at the screen and thinks that the government has a way to create a disaster. Summoning a dungeon and such complications to lure a second-rate adventure into a trap is too much. He puts the phone to his ear and asks if she is heading there. The villain stands and says that they will meet there. He looks into the distance and hopes that he will like the surprise prepared. The villain extends his hand forward and calls Ikoma's name. The level 24 Earth monitor growls at the enemy. Satsuki jumps away from the object. Mio strikes with a crimson blade. Ikoma looks away as the enemy approaches him. He shouts to his assistant that it is time to attack. Akasha calls out a crushing wave of fire. Satsuki holds the small monster who is trying to escape. He cries in despair. Satsuki smiles. She begins the process of transferring mana, saying that she has extracted enough mana from the monsters so she can help others. The small creature falls lifelessly to the ground. Mio strokes the little girl and assures her that everything will be fine now. Satsuki looks ahead and states that compared to the last disaster, the monsters are not that strong. She stands next to Ikoma and says that they will cope with everything even before the special forces arrive. He replies that the battle with the local boss will not be as easy as it seems. The picture shows a monster. It is explained that Gale Karina is able to create monsters in huge numbers and also has a high movement speed. Satsuki comes to an idea in surprise. Ikoma calmly notes that if the monster gets out of the dungeon, they will not be able to catch it. Against the background of buildings, Ikoma says that monsters will fill the city and the disaster can no longer be avoided. Mio holds the child's hand and asks how they will be able to find the enemy. Ikoma turns around and says that Geokarina is very cautious and timid, and she tries not to approach opponents whose level is higher than hers. In front of them is a beautiful city. The guy explains that with their current level, they can easily defeat her, but catching her will not be easy. He holds the smartphone and thinks that this is strange because he wrote messages, but she never responded. Mio is standing next to the girl and says that she thinks it is better to split up. Given their level, they can deal with enemies alone, and in this situation they will be able to explore most of the territory, and also they need to escort the child to a safe place. Satsuki is standing next to the guy and says that this is a great idea. Ikoma with a serious look realizes that he has a bad feeling about this whole situation. The picture has an inscription that in the past timeline this dungeon was the most ordinary and unremarkable task for beginners, but now it can become the beginning of a new disaster. He thinks something is wrong, but he can't explain what it is. And even if they split up, there's no guarantee they'll be able to catch the enemy alone. He looks at his companions and realizes that there's little time left. Ikoma turns to everyone and says they need to split up, noting that if they find anything unusual, they need to report it immediately. The picture shows a building and someone is laughing. Food is cooking on the stove and Ikoma says it's almost ready. The hooded villain thanks them for waiting, talking about a double hamburger with double cheese. He goes and says he loves family restaurants because they offer customers delicious food at affordable prices. The room is in a big mess and the villain says that a double hamburger combined with double cheese tastes incredible. He puts the plate on the table and hopes they like it as much as he does. A guy sits all alone in the ruins and declares that he needs to eat well before the mission, wishing everyone a pleasant appetite. He starts biting into a hamburger. The glass near him breaks. He sees the plate with shards fly away. A blond man in a cloak calls him Sotong, noting that his code name is Collector, saying that he is a serial killer hunting strong adventurers. The guy hides behind the table and asks what is going on because he just finished making his special double hamburger, and if he was so eager to eat it, he could have just asked. Sot thinks about what skill he should use considering that the enemy is all alone. A man with a large sword takes a fighting stance. The villain notices that this is not an ordinary sword, but a magic blade. A strong explosion occurs after using purple flame. The blond man looks the opposite and calls a curious. Sotong calls him a magician with a smirk. He sits on top of a large monster and states that it uses melee attacks, suggesting that it is a combat mage. The man exclaims that the opponent is indeed a collector. The hooded guy hears that he received a report from his subordinates about a suspicious man in a mask with multicolored rings. The blonde claims that he has made a career out of killing such scum, calling himself an A-rank adventurer and bounty hunter. He stands in front of Sotong, who asks if he really is a hunter since it is hard work and he could become an adventurer. Komuro says with a smile that it is a thankless job where the maximum you can achieve is C rank. But by killing people like Sotong, he gets much more experience and glory. The hooded scoundrel states that he has a very boring life since he gets up early in the morning and runs around with a proud look, killing supposed criminals. Stom says with a serious face that he doesn't even want to waste time on trash like camera, specifying that maybe he'll just leave and he'll spare him. Muro swings his sword and flies into the attack, insulting his opponent. He flies into the attack with confidence, realizing that summoning a familiar to the battlefield means spending a huge amount of mana and therefore dragging out the fight is not in his interests. Komuro hits the opponent, realizing that he just needs to close the distance and finish the fight with one blow. Sotong turns to the enemy with a smirk and offers to teach him a trick. Komuro looks at him in surprise. He is discouraged to hear that this is called a surprise attack. Blood spills onto the floor. A little girl with 4 arms hovers in the window. Komuro does not believe that he was attacked from behind. The summoned monster named Da looks on menacingly while Akashahiro is sure that he looked around the room carefully before entering and did not see any other familiars, wondering how he managed to summon another one. Stom says with a smile that he knew from the beginning that he was being followed. Komuro kneels in front of Sotong while he says that due to his multiclass he has high defense as expected from a battle mage, which is why he did not die from one blow. The man begs not to kill him because he will pay any amount. Sot teases him saying that his horned friend should not be forgotten, and if he says anything again he will smear him against the wall. The guy in the hoodie throws up his hands and does not understand why people always offer to save his life for money, noting that he feels like some kind of scum. A bright fireball flies towards Sotong. Energy is coming at him. He doesn't understand what it is. A fire arrow or explosives. A huge red monster is standing behind Sotong. A fireball flies towards them. There is a bright flash. The guy in the hood is surprised that the enemy killed his Gorgle with one blow. The guy is upset that he did not finish everything with one blow. Ikoma with the bow says that he missed. A whirlwind of energy circles around Sotong. The girl with green hair uses this skill. A firestorm attacks the villain. Everything around is burning. He screams that because of them he will not be able to cook another portion of his double hamburger with cheese. He sees 2 heroes and understands that in addition to the bounty hunter, there were also guys from the special forces. They launched a fire arrow for a reason because it was a plan to spread the fire and burn him. The man lies on the ground. The squad members run forward. Tuya looks ahead calmly. The villain thinks that with this siege they were able to save the hunter and only one person from the special unit could have lured him into such a trap. The picture shows people with the inscription mediocrity. It is explained that not every adventurer they meet is accepted into the special units because you not only need to be strong but also follow the strictest rules. So many cannot stand to work in such conditions. The lieutenant in the shirt looks away courageously. It is said that he is the most talented and young member of the squad, and they say that he passed the entrance exam on the first try. Stom smiles, realizing how his hands are itching to defeat such a talented idealist. He sees all the participants and realizes that now is not the best time to fight because his subordinates will greatly interfere. The villain clenches his fist and realizes that he was able to dodge the sudden attack, but he lost it. And if he tries to engage in battle, he will waste a lot of mana. He grits his teeth and realizes that he still has work to do. And if he fails, he will definitely be quartered. Salt looks forward, realizing that he was lucky this time and hopes that he and Tuya will have fun next time. He jumps forward. The squad members turn around and shout that the collector is trying to escape. Tuya pulls back a bowstring with a fire arrow. He shoots at the villain using the fire arrow skill. The surprised partner exclaims that it worked, but the guy replies that it did not. A clone of the villain lies on the ground. The lieutenant explains that it is an ordinary slime because he disguised this slime with his robe. A building is visible. The guy explains that Satong himself ran to the roof. She asks if they will follow him. Tuya with a smirk says that it is pointless because their goal is to stop the dungeon disaster, and they will lose a lot of time and effort chasing a person. The lieutenant goes ahead and says that first they need to deal with the fire. Kamuru is sitting on the ground. The lieutenant says that he will interrogate him later as soon as he finishes with everything else. Mio runs through the buildings. The picture shows the boss of the Fairy Garden dungeon, Gaokarina, level 38. The girl understands that there is still a little left. The monster uses the skill to summon fairy creatures. Mio stands in front of a bunch of flying monsters. She begins to attack with her blade, ordering them to get out of the way. Satsuki looks at the plants in surprise. She realizes with a dissatisfied face that she does not have time to fight them, and if she does nothing, Gaokarina will escape again. Mio's sword starts to glow brightly. She uses the Infernal Destruction skill and spends 44 health points, converting the Reaper's life force into dark magic for an enhanced attack. Bright beams reach the small monsters. The girl runs after the boss, confident that she will defeat him with one blow. Bright flashes touch the tree. Mio flies with a sword at the monitor lizard, not understanding how it got here. The monster bites her hand. She wants to scream in pain. A bright red beam hits the ground around. Mio holds the sword stuck in the body of the monitor lizard. Other creatures approached her. She thinks that the slug summoned more creatures and escaped. The girl is shocked. Ikoma runs forward thinking that he does not find any traces of Gaokarina. He is in a big city. Ikoma wants to inspect everything from above, but then realizes that he will spend too much mana for this. Ikoma looks at the phone after a message is received. He sees the boss's location in the conversation. The action takes place among the city's high-rise buildings. The girl is standing in the blood of slain monsters. The picture contains messages of gratitude because this means that the search area has been significantly reduced. Mio smirks. She turns around furiously and declares that she will smear the boss on the wall.